Well, hey everybody, it's Outland. How's it going? And tonight I have a very special guest on the show with me. I have a good friend of mine. His name's Jason Wish, and he's a fellow hiker. He's a fellow YouTuber, a friend of mine, and I've had the privilege of hiking with him. And he just blows me away on the trail. I can't even keep up with the guy. He's such a fast hiker. It's usually like, hey, I'll see you at camp. Okay, all right. And I'm pretty sure he'll never sleep in a shelter with me again because I snored out the last time we were together. But uh, November of this year, Jason completed self-supported fastest known time FKT hike the Sheltowee Trace Trail in Kentucky and into Tennessee. He completed it in 9 days, 6 hours, and 57 minutes. So thanks, Jason, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Lance. I really appreciate you inviting me in to share my adventure with you guys. It was an absolutely amazing experience, and looking forward to sharing my experience with you guys.
Great. So, hey, could you tell us a little bit about the Sheltowee Trace? Am I saying it right, Sheltowee, or is it?
I believe it's Sheltowee, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I guess I've never really been corrected. I probably could be saying it wrong as well. So
okay.
Well, I guess I'm just going to go with Sheltowee when I say it.
Okay. So what made you decide to do an FKT on this trail instead of just a through hike?
Well, I was looking, I guess originally I was looking for a longer through hike. You know, I've been spending the last 2 years hiking about everything Ohio has, and Ohio has some decent, loops, 25 to 40 mile loops. And there's probably 5, 6, 7 of them. And I've done them all. Went into Pennsylvania and did a few, a little longer, South Carolina, Kentucky, Indiana, Michigan. So I've kind of did all the bordering states and Ohio. So I was ready to do something bigger, a bigger challenge. And I like taking on challenges. I like pushing myself. And I guess I was thinking about this the other day. What drew me towards the FKT? And I was thinking back to my childhood. In the mid-'80s, I was growing up on our dairy farm here in Bellefonte, Ohio. And I actually had a book of records that I made when I was about 14 years old of everything I could think of around the farm to do a time trial with. Like I had the fastest time around my house, the fastest time into my road and back, and around several different fields on my farm. And I enjoyed doing that and competing with myself and with my neighborhood friends. So I think that's where the trying to get a fastest time or be competitive and beat someone in a race stems from.
So you got to get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Hiking.
So fast forward to exactly. Yeah. So I didn't really get into backpacking until, like I said earlier, just like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And I've always spent time in the outdoors camping. We cowboy camped all around the farm during my whole entire childhood, building forts, doing bushcraft type stuff, but never officially went backpacking. So I kind of got the bug about 3 years ago. And fast forward to today, I was looking for a bigger challenge. So the Sheltowee Trace, I knew about it from being in Red River Gorge several times. And I know you've spent a lot of time at Red River Gorge in the past, and, it's a beautiful place. And I thought, if the Sheltowee Trace has anything like Red River Gorge has to offer throughout the trail, man, I'm all in. Mm-hmm. So, I looked at the Pinhoti and the Benton MacKay Trail. I'm not sure how you say that one. Those are both 300-mile trails as well, Georgia, Alabama area. And the time of the year that I was going to be hiking this was going to be in early November to mid-November. So I knew it was going to be getting cold, and I thought it might be a little warmer on the Sheltowee Trace. I didn't want to go into the higher mountains like in Georgia and maybe be, froze out. So, the Sheltowee Trace is closer. I can be down there, 4 hours basically.
Yeah. There's the Cumberland Gap or Cumberland Trail or something down there in Tennessee too. But I was looking at that one.
Yeah. Yep. I haven't looked at a lot, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what's it mean to be, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to elaborate a little further on why I chose to do an FKT. I guess I never really answered that completely. I wanted to, I started looking at the FKT site, and I'd only recently discovered what FKTs were, because, you know, I didn't really know what it was. So I found out that there was these speed records on these trails. You know, there's about every trail in America has some kind of a FKT on it. And that was really interesting to me. And the time I started crunching the numbers on the current FKT holder of the Sheltowee Trace, and I thought to myself, I think I can do this. I think I can do 36 miles a day. I know it's going to be tough, but I felt confident that with a little bit of training, I might be able to get this one. Now, there are some other trails that are way out of reach. You know, if you get down to those trails that are under 100 miles, I mean, these are ultra runners just blazing through. And, you know, I wouldn't be able to touch that. You almost have to be a marathon runner to, you know, have a chance at those. But I felt this longer trail would allow me to use my skills in backpacking, because it's going to be a multi-day event. And, you know, so I felt with a little bit of training to be able to run a little bit of it, and to use my skills I've learned in backpacking over the last 3 years and throughout my whole life of camping out, that I would have a chance at this. So that's why I chose the Sheltowee Trace and why I went for the FKT.
Nice. So what's it mean to be self-supported when you do that?
Okay, so there are 3 types of FKTs. There is self-supported, which means you are allowed to support yourself by stashing food or supplies along the trail. So if, for me, in this instance, I just did one food cache at the midway point. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, about what I've changed about that. But I was able to stop at gas stations if I passed any, or restaurants along the way. Lodges, you know, there's a couple lodges along the Sheltowee Trace. So you're allowed to support yourself by purchasing things along the trail if you need them, or stashing food and gear along the way.
Okay.
Now, an unsupported would be starting and finishing with what you started with in your backpack, on yourself, on your person. You are not allowed any kind of outside help or supplies given to you in any way, shape, or form.
Wow.
So when you get to the 300-mile mark, you're pushing the limits of the possibility of being able to do it unsupported, because your guy carries so much food weight with you.
Yeah.
It can be done, but there's very few people that have completed 300-plus mile hikes doing them unsupported. A good example would be the Superior Hiking Trail. That one's 310, I think, and Follow Bigfoot. Rory from Follow Bigfoot recently got the new FKT on that one, unsupported. And he was carrying almost 20 pounds of food. You know, I mean, it's really tough the first couple of days carrying all that food.
Wow.
So I just felt silly going for an unsupported when I knew I had all these food options along the way that would make it a little bit easier for me to carry less food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then there's the third one, supported. Supported is where you have a group or a team that helps support you along the way. They may set up camp for you. They may have aid stations, food and water stations every 20, 30 miles, for example. And a lot of ultra runners will go for that type of FKT, because they may just carry a little running vest with some water and maybe some gel packets, energy gels, and that's all they'll take with them. So they're really lightweight and they can really fly, and they're getting support all the way through the trail.
Wow. That kind of seems like cheating, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. A totally different kind, I guess, of FKT. Yeah. And they're usually a lot faster times too.
Sure. Oh, that's interesting. So how did you prepare for this hike? What'd you do to prepare?
Well, I guess I'll talk about the physical part second. First of all, I guess for preparing for it is just reading, you know, blogs. I watched a few YouTube videos of other people who have hiked the trail. I read a lot of blogs. Jupiter Hikes has a great blog write-up about his FKT attempt, which he had to bail on, but he still did it in 11 days, which is pretty darn fast. And he had a great write-up. I learned a lot from reading his blog. And there's a wealth of information on the Sheltowee Trace Association website. They have like a hiker resource page that answers a lot of frequently asked questions for through hikers on, you know, resupply places and things like that.
Okay.
And what to expect on the trail. And also their Facebook page. They have a great Facebook page. There's a pretty big community on there. So I would post questions about water sources and things like that. So that really helped me a lot. So nice. I was really thankful to have their website and their Facebook page to help me out.
Yeah.
as far as physically training for this, I guess that was kind of the next question. I would say I really started taking it serious about 5 months out before my attempt, and leading up to the final month, the 6 weeks, then I really upped my game. I started doing all my hikes with a loaded pack, probably 3/4 of a loaded pack. I didn't have all my food in there, but I had like a 3-day supply to help weight it down.
Mm-hmm.
So I was probably training with 17, 18 pounds. I'd fill up my water bottles just to try to give it some extra weight. And I would try to jog about half of my daily hiking. If I was going to go out on a 10-mile or 15-mile hike, I would try to jog at least a third of it. I would jog until I got tired, and then I'd walk, and then I'd jog. I'd just keep going back and forth, trying to get my body used to feeling that backpack back there bouncing around with that extra weight while I was running. And, to help toughen your knees and hips and, ankles and a lot of ligaments and tendons. That's a lot of stress on them. So
Right.
definitely needed to spend some time training with that heavy weight on my back. And I would say for probably 3 or 4 months, I usually just hiked every other day, minimum 5 or 6 miles, but I tried to keep it more like 8 to 10 if I had the time. And then once a week, I always did a 15 to 20 mile hike.
Okay.
And it's almost impossible for me as a business owner, a father, and a husband to go out and replicate a 40-mile day to prepare for this FKT, even though I knew, that's what I was going to have to do. It's hard to make time to go out and hike 40 miles, it's very time consuming. So, I tried to do highest mileage as time would allow, but never did a 35 or 40 mile day in training, believe it or not.
Yeah. But you're a very fit guy to begin with. So,
yeah, I have a slender, long, lanky build. So yeah, I would consider myself fairly fit, and I weight train as well. So that's another thing a lot of people don't talk about that hike. You hear a lot of these guys that through hike say, all you got to do is just go out and hike. If you go out and hike 8 or 10 miles every day or whatever they say, you're going to be in good hiking shape. And that very well may be. But when you're pushing yourself up and down big hills and climbing up rocks and stair steps, I think you need to incorporate some weight training into your lower body, like lunges and squats. So I did a lot of lunges and squats actually I do those year round, but I really upped my game, the couple months prior to this.
Yeah.
At least twice a week I was doing lower body work and also upper body work. But
and strengthening that core basically so you can support that pack, I can imagine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Things like planks and crunches, and I try to do a full body workout, and it definitely takes time to do all that, but I think that's what you have to do to be ready to take on a challenge like an FKT, is that length.
So you talked about physically training for it, but how do you mentally prepare for this? That you're you're going to be pushing yourself pretty much as hard as you possibly can for 9 days straight. I mean, how do you?
I don't really have a great answer for that. I was trying to think of how I mentally prepared. I was concerned about that because I know it's a huge mental hurdle to get over, to push through those miles. Just like you said in the little interview for my video, it takes fortitude and, to push through those miles. And how do you prepare mentally for that? And because that's a big chunk of it for sure. I think just dwelling on it. Every day I was thinking about it. When I'm lifting, when I'm hiking, when I'm reading blogs, posting questions on Facebook, I'm thinking about it all the time. So I think it just like permeated me by thinking about it so much, and that helped me prepare for it a little bit. It's not like I went out and, hiked in the freezing cold or in the rain with not enough gear on or anything to like toughen myself up to overcome, obstacles like that. I think it was just constantly thinking about it, and maybe a little bit of what I went through my childhood and into my adult years farming. I work really hard. I have a physical job, so maybe it kind of toughens you up over the years a little bit. And I spent a lot of time in my childhood camping and building forts and bushcrafting in the woods, just for fun. So, maybe that kind of prepared me a little bit too. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure it did. Yeah. Awesome. So, what or who is your biggest resource for information? I think you kind of said this. It was the blogs.
I guess I did already answer that a little bit. Probably the Sheltowee Trace Association website, and reading other people's blogs like Jupiter and the Facebook page. So
yeah, and I did look at that site.
About it.
Yeah, that site does have a lot of great information out there.
Yeah, it does. So anybody that's interested in hitting the Sheltowee Trace, man, it's a great place to start.
Sure. So, what was your biggest challenge along the way? What would you say your biggest hurdle was?
Great question. Going into it, a couple weeks prior, there was a major drought going through Kentucky, just like many areas of Ohio was experiencing. So there was a lack of water in the northern half, especially until you get to the Red River Gorge and get down there where, you start hitting rivers and lakes and things and more streams. But we were fortunate enough to have some nice rains before I started, so water was no longer an issue. I had no problems whatsoever. Awesome. Dogs were a major concern of mine. There's a lot of unleashed dogs in Kentucky, and I kid you not, I bet you I passed 50, if not 60, barking dogs right along the road at people's houses. They're either sleeping on the porch or they're unleashed, running around the yards, and they come out and they bark at you. But 9 times out of 10, they're just making noise. They're just doing their job of barking. I had a couple that came out on the road and kind of sniffed me and followed me, and their hair raised up on their backs, and tried to scare me, but they never really bothered me. There were a set of dogs I was concerned about at the end of one of these road walks that actually took Jupiter out of the FKT running. So I was really concerned about these dogs, and I was thinking about it all day. I knew I was getting close to this house where these 2 dogs, these notorious dogs, lived. And believe it or not, a fella came up beside me when I was about a quarter mile away, and he goes, "Hey, did you know there's some mean dogs up ahead?" And I was like, "Yes, I am prepared for them. I got my dog spray ready, and I'm carrying my 380. And he goes, "You know what? I'm going to run home and put those inside for you." And he was the owner of the dogs. So what are the chances, man? I was like an answered prayer. He came by, he took care of the dogs, and I never had an issue.
Wow.
By his place.
Wow. And you told him you had your gun on you.
Yeah, I think when he found out I was carrying, he's like, "Oh, I better put my dogs away."
he's like, "Just a minute, slow down." That's funny.
Other than that, I think some of the biggest obstacles for me were some of the river crossings in the Red River Gorge in the dark. I was actually, if you've been through there, it zigzags across. It's not the Red River; it's one of the smaller creeks, but it's still, too big to just walk through in a lot of spots unless you want to get soaked. And this was like 5 o'clock in the morning. It's pitch black, and the signage is not real good through there. The blazes. Luckily, I had some nice GPX files of a former through hiker that I was able to follow. So I did get off track a couple times, numerous times actually, but I was always able to correct it pretty quickly. But some of those places in early mornings and late evenings when in the dark, when you're relying on your headlamp to see your way, definitely was a challenge. And then I guess the other thing that was a challenge was obviously the blister that almost took me off the trail on day 3. It was so bad. It hurt so bad. But then I finally got it popped and wrapped up, and then I just had to deal with a normal blister pain. And
that looked
got through that
okay.
Yeah, it was. And then my right ankle area got tweaked on a rock or something. It's kind of like lower shin ankle, one of those ligaments or something, and that was really bothering me for a couple days, as well as my Achilles tendon on my left leg, which is still healing. Actually, it's probably only about 80%. That was really bad. So I'm lucky I didn't rupture an Achilles tendon.
Well, yes, I know how the gorge is. It's pretty up and down. So is the whole trail pretty much like that? Pretty similar?
Yeah, I would say it's very similar. Yeah, I mean, you probably have 30 or 40 miles of road walks, and those are easy. As long as you're feeling good. The problem I was having when I was on the road, when I was hoping to really make some time up by jogging and getting some easy miles, that was when I was hurting. So I was like using my trekking poles as canes part of the time.
Oh,
Like
wow.
going down hills is the most painful,
Uh-huh.
when you start getting those sore ankles and shins. But I was able to overcome it and get through it. I took a lot of ibuprofen.
I'm sure.
And then one last thing to mention on this, it was a really big challenge for me mentally. This was the mental challenge I had to overcome, was wanting to stop and sit down and rest for just 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
When I got halfway through it, probably the final 5 days, the urge to want to stop and take a break was so strong. And having to push through that was probably the toughest thing I've ever done. Because I knew if I just did that 3 or 4 times a day, could cost me the hours that I needed to get the FKT.
Right. And you didn't have anybody there telling you, hey, got to keep going. It was all on yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a few half marathons. Is pretty much the closest thing I could relate to that, which is nothing like what you did. But I just know how difficult that was for me, like especially when I started cramping at mile 11. And, it's like, just want to stop, but I can't stop. It's like, if I could just.
I would say that's a very similar feeling.
Yeah. So, yeah. Wow. So you talked about the challenges of getting up early in the dark. As I followed you, I saw you were on the trail at like 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning. It seemed like. So how many hours of sleep were you typically getting?
I think in the beginning I was getting 6, 7 hours, which I felt wasn't plenty. But when I realized because of the pain in the blister and in my ankles that I was experiencing, it caused me to only get low 30s for about 3 days in the middle of my hike, and I had to make that up. So near the end, there was a couple days. The final night, I only got 1 hour 45 minutes of sleep. And then the night before that, I think it was only 4 or 5. So there was a couple days that I was still feeling good enough that I was confident I could get it, as long as I started earlier or hiked later. One or the other. Something had to give. So yeah, the 5:30 a.m. wasn't working anymore. So I did a couple of 4s, and then the final day I think I started at 3 to be able to get out on time. That was the main reason I was lacking sleep. Not getting enough sleep is just because of not getting the mileage that I needed during about 3 days in the middle of the hike.
Yeah. What was your longest day? What was your distance for your longest day?
46 to 4. I think it's 46.5 was my longest day. And that was the most miserable day of my life. Holy moly. You kind of forget about all the pain and agony you go through. I'm kind of related to maybe a woman giving birth. Where they say, I'm never having a baby again. And, next year they're pregnant again, because you forget the pain and you remember the great memories. So now that I'm talking about it with you, I'm remembering that pain.
Oh, no.
And that was a horrible day. But what drove me to get that 46 miles was knowing that my wife was going to meet me at this campground where I was trying to get to that day.
Oh.
And I just kept pushing and pushing. It took me till 10:45 that night. That was that long day, but I made it.
Wow.
That was a tough one.
Was that the day? Was that you say that was the point that you thought about quitting, or was that like you said with the blister?
Yeah. Day 3 was the first time I thought I might have to throw the towel in because the pain was so great. It felt like if someone was sticking a hot iron into my foot.
Oh.
But once I got that fixed up, it wasn't until probably day 5 or 6. I think I woke up one morning. Oh, it was the day before I got my food bag because I'd ran out of electrolytes. And I was almost out of food. So I think I was dehydrated on day 5 and low on electrolytes. And I woke up in the middle of the night with my lower legs from the knees down burning so bad and cramping so bad I could hardly stand the pain. And luckily I had a couple little Walmart packet water flavoring things. And I chugged down 2 of those with a pint of water, and it actually calmed my legs back down.
No.
And I thought I was going to have to call for help and bail on night 5. Yeah.
Wow. That is crazy. You were worried about possible mountain lions down there or something?
Yeah. Someone had said on one of the Facebook posts when I was researching things that they'd seen a mountain lion on the trail in the middle of the night when they were hiking. And whether it's true or not, or whether they're around, I don't know. But other people that I talked to said you don't need to worry about that. But when you're hiking by yourself down in these deep hollers at 9 o'clock at night and it's dead calm, I mean, it's hard to not think about that.
Sure. Sure.
I was thinking about bears and mountain lions, but I never saw any wildlife. I think other than one deer and a couple squirrels. That is all I saw the entire time. So, absolutely no wildlife encounters or scary human encounters the entire time.
Did you pass many other hikers?
Very few. Not until I got down near Cumberland Falls, the final 100 miles.
Okay.
I passed a family doing a shakedown hike for preparing for their AT through hike next year, and a couple day hikers here and there. But yeah, not very many at all. I almost had the whole trail myself.
Nice. So you had a Facebook page set up for this. How did you feel about having a following on social media?
You know, at first I was a little concerned for my wife because she doesn't like me to let people know when I'm going to be gone from our home, you know, just as a safety concern, you know. But so that's why I started a private page. But then we decided that we're just going to release that link, that Garmin map share link, to the public on all the public sites. So we put it on the Sheltowee site, on my regular Jason Wish site, and that private site. And, you know, having people on that map share site actually really motivated me. It's like I was being watched because I knew people were watching the dots on the map every few minutes, you know, go further south on the trail. And I would think to myself while I'm hiking, these people are some people are out there watching me right now. And if I stop, they know I've stopped and they're wondering when I'm going to go again. So
yeah, I was watching
you. Yeah, like a lot of people were. And I think that was a real big driving force, a big motivation for me to really push through the pain, because I didn't want to let everybody down. You know, I'd made that preview video and shared all this stuff on Facebook pages about me getting ready to tackle this challenge, and I didn't want to let everybody down. And, you know, so I think that was a huge motivation for me.
Yeah, it was fun to watch. It was fun to see the overlay and then say, oh, look, he's crossing water right now, or he's on a road, or, you know, it was whenever I got a chance, I'd go back and see an update and watch it update in real time. It was really, really neat, given, you know, your exact position and your speed and everything. Did that give you more of a sense of security, having people know where you were, especially your wife, I'm sure?
You know, yeah. And then, you know, I didn't think about that until after the hike when I was talking with one of my buddies that was following me really close. He said that if he would have saw me not moving, you know, if it would have became, let's say 6 or 7 o'clock and the sun's coming out and I'm still at camp, he would have got concerned.
Right.
And he probably would have came down, looked for me, or made some calls or something. So yeah, I guess, you know, it didn't dawn on me till after the hike that, man, I guess that was kind of a safety net, having people watching me on MapShare.
Yeah, I think if I was going to do, you know, even not just an FKT, but just a through hike, I would definitely take a GPS like that with me, just for that factor of making sure somebody knows what's going on with me. So yeah, I think it's a great thing to have. So you just came out with part 1 of your adventure. I guess it's a 2-parter, right?
Yes, correct.
So how'd you balance the photographing and filming of the experience while still maintaining your FKT time? How did you do that?
That is a great question, because as you know, being a vlogger as I am for YouTube, it definitely takes time and effort to set up shots, to figure out what you're going to talk about, taking care of your camera gear, charging batteries, you know, all that stuff that goes along with being a YouTuber. You know what I'm talking about. It's a lot of work. And I knew that I would not be able to set up walk-by shots, walk away, walk to the camera, because that takes up too much time. So I knew this was going to be more of a walking down the trail, talking to the camera, sharing my feelings type video. And, you know, those might not be the most exciting type to watch all the time, but that was the only way I was going to be able to do it. So I decided to do it that way. Now, there was a few times where I got a little cocky and I did set up a walk away shot, you know, when I thought I was doing really good. during the day and thinking I'm way ahead of schedule. I want to do a walk-by shot. So I did do a couple of them, but not very many. But, you know, believe it or not, I probably only filmed, I was thinking about this, only about 20 or 30 minutes a day. And that's not very much. On a 14-hour day of hiking, I only captured 20 or 30 minutes of my experience, of what I was feeling and what I was seeing. But,
and is that,
you know,
did
you
that
add
just
that up.
did that just come to you as like, I need to get the camera out and capture this moment? Or was it, you just, I should film something today? Or how did that?
A little bit of both. I think a
Okay.
little bit of both. Sometimes I would be walking by something really cool, and I was like, man, this is a great backdrop for me to go ahead and talk about what I'm going through right now, where I'm at, what I'm experiencing, what's coming up ahead, things like that. And there was other times where I was, you know, well, here's what happened. On day 3, after going through Red River Gorge, I had a Z-Pax pouch from my Z-Pax Arc Haul that I had attached to my light AF pack. And that's where I carry my camera. That zipper broke, and I could no longer carry my camera, and I didn't have a backup plan. So I had to start stuffing my camera into my bottom stretchy, what do you call that? The little stretchy pocket on the bottom of the light AF pack for like keeping snacks and wrappers in. That's where I had to start stuffing my camera.
Oh, wow.
And you talk about a pain in the butt. It was either that or take my pack off every time I wanted my camera. And I didn't want to do that.
No.
So that really deterred me from filming more. But, you know, now that I'm editing, there's still a ton of footage. You know, I probably still had 3 hours of footage minimum throughout the whole hike, maybe 3.5 to 4 hours of footage. You know, and part 2 is only going to end up being 35 minutes, I think. So, you know, still feel like I got a fair amount of footage, even though it was difficult to do.
Yeah, that's impressive. I'll tell you. I know how hard it is to keep everything going, especially when you're doing something like that, trying to beat a time. Oh my goodness. So what issues did you deal with after the hike? How long did it take you to recover?
Okay, I would say I took about 2 weeks off of doing absolutely nothing. When I say absolutely nothing, no more. I wasn't working out. I wasn't hiking. Probably 1 week of just sitting on my butt and just watching TV and eating all I could, because when I got off the trail, I'd lost about 7 or 8 pounds, but I kept losing weight, even though I was gorging myself. My metabolism was so high that I ended up losing 10 pounds in the end.
Wow.
And I'm 1 month out right now from being in the middle of my hike. So about 3.5 weeks since I finished. And I've got about 7 pounds back maybe. So it's coming back quick. And I'm finally getting back into my normal routine. I'm working out with weights again, kind of lightly, and walking. I've been walking 4 miles a day with a cousin of mine living down the road. So I'm getting back in to walking and lifting again, but I'm still dealing with a little bit of Achilles tendon issue in my left leg. There's something still going on there. It's a little numb spot on the outside of my left Achilles, driving me crazy, but it's not keeping me from walking. I just don't know if I can jog yet.
Yeah.
So
now,
other than that,
did you consult with a doctor
I
at
did.
all? Okay.
I didn't. A chiropractor. I wanted to make sure, you know, from all that jarring of my body, you know, going through that trail for so long, I wanted to make sure that if I got something out of place in my, you know, in my hips or pelvis or in my back or neck, you know, I got a couple good cracks and make sure I was all aligned. And
Okay.
that's all I did. You know, my blister healed up great. Still a little bit of soreness in my knee, under my kneecaps, I believe. That's that and my Achilles. That's about the only thing I got going on right now. So I'm recovering well, and I think a couple more weeks I'll be back to tip-top shape.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sounds like you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So Jason, what advice would you give somebody wanting to do an FKT or even just a through hike, even just a normal through hike?
Well, I kind of touched on this earlier. If for someone wanting to really push and challenge themselves, and if they're thinking about doing FKT, I think they need to do more than just hike. I think you need to incorporate some weight training for your legs. And I also probably foot care. That was one thing I underestimated a little bit. I didn't bring enough Leuco tape. Fortunately, I ran into a trail angel that was able to leave me a little roll of Leuco tape in a bag along the trail. So that was a godsend, because I was running out of Leuco tape and I needed it bad for that blister. So I think preparing your feet better. I thought I prepared well. I thought I toughened them up enough, wearing Crocs around, trying to go barefooted a little bit, but it wasn't enough. I feel like, I think, I don't know if you ever wore the Ultra shoes before?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. I really like those. And, I've been wearing them for over 2 years and I haven't had any issues at all. Never had a blister, never had a hot spot or anything. But for some reason during this hike, maybe it was because I was running with a 20-pound pack for several days. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But my feet just were not up to snuff for being able to handle that. So I think preparing your feet a little bit better would help. And thirdly, calorie intake. I know everybody has a different metabolism. Everybody has a different body type. So you got to kind of know your body and what's going to take to fuel it. But I think I underestimated my calories. Even though I was eating almost 5,000 calories a day, obviously it wasn't enough for the amount of weight I lost.
Yeah.
I think my body may have needed 8,000 to 10,000 calories a day. And I have a lot of learning to do on caloric intake on the trail. A lot of different kinds of bars and things. That's just not enough. I needed maybe some more energy gels, like numerous times during the day, not just once or twice like I was doing.
Well, that's probably something you kind of just don't even think of. You're so focused on the speed and just the moving that you're not even thinking about eating. Like, oh, I should probably eat, because you're just, you don't want to stop. You don't want to. Yeah. So that's a good question too, is, what did you do for did you actually take a lunch break, or did you?
Never.
You were just walking
No.
or at least moving? Okay.
Yep. I ate on the trail every day, all day long. So it started off every hour and a half. I tried to tell myself, this is when I'm going to eat a bar or whatever, a bag of nuts, mixed nuts. I tried to always be taking something, ingesting some food every hour and a half. But by day 4, I felt the hiker hunger starting to kick in, and I had to eat something every hour. So it was, 12 hours a day. That's 12 times. I'm eating 12 times a day. Basically, you're just snacking all day long. I cooked a Mountain House meal at night, and I would get my cook kit out for cooking, heating up water for coffee in the morning. Other than that, it never came out. So there's definitely room for some improvement there if I'm going to do another one in the future, is to learn how to take more calories in. Maybe some, I did a lot of research on hiking food, and I tried a lot of new different things and a lot of whole foods and things. It wasn't just a bunch of Snicker bars like some people do. I was trying to eat some healthy calories, and I hope to do some follow-up videos to talk more about this in depth, to share with everybody what I was eating.
Yeah, I'd love to learn more about that for sure.
My tent setup was perfect for an FKT, especially the duplex. It was really quick and easy. I would be hesitant about doing a hammock setup for someone wanting to do an FKT. Now, if you're just doing a through hike, it'd probably be great. But man, it was so nice to be able to just quickly pop up my Z-Packs, throw everything inside the duplex, and it's all right there with me. I didn't have to set up no separate tarp, hang a underquilt. It just seems like, to me, since I've experienced both methods, the tent setup's the way to go for an FKT.
Yeah, I would say absolutely, because you and I both know how you have to tweak a hammock so much, it seems like. And I can't imagine after doing a day, 40-mile day, having to, at the end of the day, having to find trees that are right and make sure I get my hammock pitched correctly and fiddle with that. I would want to throw down a tent and be done. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. And that was one of the biggest grinds, even though it was a quick, easy setup. The last thing I wanted to do was set all that up, blow up my air pad, cook a meal. I just wanted to be done. That's where a support crew for someone doing a supported hike would be really nice. You could just walk right in, lay down, go to bed.
Yeah.
So it did get to be a grind. I have to do that every morning, every night. But what do you do? It's something that has to be done.
Yep. Well, so speaking of that, what do you have? What are your plans for your next adventure? Do you do any more FKTs or just any more through hikes?
Well, that's another great question, because it's funny how things change in a couple weeks. I pretty much told myself and my wife the day I got off that trail that I would never, ever consider attempting something like this again because of the misery and the pain that I went through. But she asked me about it again the next day, and I said, yeah, probably will never do anything like that again. A week later, I doubt it, but I might look at some stuff. It kept gradually changing, and now here we are today. Believe it or not, before I started this interview with you, Lance, I was online looking at FKTs to see what else is out there.
You started an addiction now.
I know it. This is another term I just learned about this week. The different types of fun: type 1 fun, type 2 fun, and type 3 fun. Type 2 fun is kind of what I was doing. It's a miserable experience while you're going through it. It hurts, it's painful, and it's not really fun. But when it's all over, you have these amazing fun memories that you talk and share for years, for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely did that for me. That's exactly what happened. I look back on it, I'm like, man, it was so amazing what I just went through. It hurt at the time, but it was such an amazing memory, and I love talking about it and sharing my adventure with others, what it was like.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, that's
So,
awesome.
to answer your question, yes, I do have some more adventures planned. Nothing in the books right at the moment, but I'm interested in looking at some other places like the Georgia Loop, the Pinhoti Trail, the Bartram Trail, the Benton McKay Trail. Those are some other longer trails that I would love to try. And, I don't want to do nothing but long through hikes. I am interested in maybe doing Grayson Highlands and Cranberry Wilderness and some other more relaxing hikes.
Nice.
To go out and enjoy myself.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm thinking about. I'd like to do maybe a through of the Sheltowee, not an FKT, of course, but maybe just. I probably wouldn't be able to do the whole thing. Maybe half of it, like 150 miles or so, because I can only get that much time off work. But that's something I'd like to do this coming year. But we'll see.
Yeah, the only drawback to the Sheltowee is the roadblocks, and there's too much private land areas going through Daniel Boone National Forest that they have to connect. Unfortunately, they have to connect to Sheltowee with roadblocks, and they do get annoying at times. But if you do have to end up picking one half, I think I would go with the southern half.
Okay.
I think there was more scenic areas and less roadblocks, more water features. So I really like the bottom half the best, I would say.
That's good to know. Okay. Awesome. Well.
Oh, hey, one more thing. You can probably just edit this in.
Well, Jason, it sounds like you had a really good time doing this. I know you had a lot of people praying for you out there. I was thinking about you every day you're out there, man. I'm glad you came through it safely and had an enjoyable experience, and you're getting to share it with the world now. So thanks so much for coming on and sharing with us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Lance. Absolutely. Had a great time sharing all this with you, and really appreciate you asking me to come on, and looking forward to maybe getting together with you and doing another hike in the future.
Absolutely, man. Everybody, I'm going to put a link to Jason's, it's his fastest known time. There's an actual page. Jason has his own page with his stats on there. I found that on the Sheltowee page, and I'll put some other links down there for the trail and stuff, so you guys can check that out. And of course, I'll include links to his videos that he's putting out on his experience. So thanks again, Jason. I really appreciate it, man. And
you're welcome.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, Lance.
All right, man. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.